Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. Tell me if you think I'm overreacting or not, and whether my whole family is just a bunch of a-holes or not. So, my husband and I have been married for quite a few years now. Since the pandemic, our living situation changed quite a lot during the quarantine. My sister, who was visiting us before the pandemic, got stuck with us after quarantine and stayed there to be safe. We didn't mind much because we had quite a bit of space with no kids. Soon, we fell into a rhythm. My husband and I worked from home, me from our bedroom and he from his home office. My sister was pursuing a college degree and was in her third year and soon started joining classes online and studying from home. After a while, it was quite comfortable to live together as we made sure not to interrupt each other, and even after the transportation system was open for the public, we asked her to stay with us instead of returning to our parents. She agreed, and we continued on like that. Now, I know my husband doesn't like to be disturbed during work hours, and so I never go into his office during the daytime. One day, when I was done with work earlier than usual, I decided to get something to eat and asked my little sister if she needed any refreshments. I went to her room and didn't find her there. I looked around the house and couldn't find her, so I decided to check into the office. Although she didn't have any reason to go in there, maybe she informed my husband about going out for fresh air or something. That was the first and the last time I went there. I found my husband and my sister in a compromised position and I left the room. That night, I asked her to get out of my house and to never talk to me. I hit my husband and told him that he could also pack his bags and look for another place to sleep, as I do not want anything to do with a cheater who'd go after my own sister. That was just gross and too humiliating for me. Although what both of them did to me was absolutely horrifying and hurt me, it was nothing compared to what I heard my father say. When I told him what had happened, he told me that it must have been a mistake and that I'm overreacting. He told me that as an older sister, I should have tried to give my sister the benefit of the doubt and that I'm exaggerating things. He said I should calm down and think about exactly what I saw and that maybe I'd come to know that things could be sorted out. That was the tipping point of my patience, and I hung up. After that, I cut all ties with all of them and divorced my husband soon after. I didn't want to stay in a relationship where the man I married would lust after my own family. How can I ever think about building a life and having kids with such a pathetic person? So time passed, and now it's been 2 years. My dad called me yesterday for the first time after everything happened and asked me how I've been. How have I been? Like, is he serious? After everything he said and after 2 years of no contact, he calls and says, "How have I been?" as if everything was fine between us. I told him I have no intention of chit chatting with him, and that if he has nothing important to say, he should just hang up. He told me that he was actually calling to apologize. He said that he wanted to mend bridges with me and he feels regret over how I broke things between us. He said no matter what, I'm still his child and he wants to be a part of my life and know what's going on with me. I was shocked. Not because of the things he was saying, which really sounded sweet, but because I know my dad. I know that he's the kind of person whose ego is so big that he'd rather swallow dirt than apologize to his own daughters or wife. So, what exactly is happening? I asked him what was wrong. Why is he actually calling me and what he needs from me? He stayed silent for a while. It was like he was thinking whether to tell me or not. He must have decided it'd be all right because soon he said that my sister did something stupid and that's all. He told me that I might not have bothered to keep tabs on people I cut out of my life, but after I left, my sister got in an open relationship with my ex husband. They both started dating. Then my father realized that what he was labeling as a mistake was actually something they both meant to do. And now my sister had told him that she was planning to marry my ex husband because they are in love. Ugh, even listening to that made my blood boil. He continued on telling me about how he tried to persuade her that that man is not the right person for her and she can find someone a lot better, but she wasn't listening to anything he said and just asked him whether he'd help her with the wedding funds or not. Now that it's out of his control and he legally can't force her to not marry this man, he was hoping that I'd talk her out of this. that I'm the one who suffered because of that man and I'm the best person to make my sister see what a jerk he is. When I say I did not expect to lose any more respect I had for my father, I mean, I really didn't think that he could do something like this. 2 years. He didn't contact me for 2 years, and now he wants to mend bridges and pretend that everything is fine between us just so I can go and help that little punk of a sister? No, thank you. I'd rather watch her get her burned just like she burned me. Does that make me a bad person? I don't think so. I didn't say or do anything when she broke apart my family. I chose to silently walk away from their lives. But now that the universe is getting my revenge for me, I am to interfere and make it all right and perfect? Like hell I would. I told my father to never call me again about anything and that it was better before when I had some semblance of respect for the man he was, even though it was for his ego. But now, seeing him behave this pathetically, I might as well not have a father at all. No way am I the daughter of this cowardly man who not only refuses to acknowledge my emotions, but also pushes me down when I need support. Do you all think I'm doing the right thing? Does me cutting all ties and silently watching my sister ruin her life make me an a hole? Or is my family the bunch of a-holes who are better off not being a part of my life? Let me just start by saying that the support I got from you guys was so much appreciated. Thank you. Although I'm strong enough to stand alone, seeing so many people telling me to keep moving on was such a wonderful thing. Since many of you upvoted my original post and are curious as to what I did next, I decided to leave an update of the current situation for everyone. Because I stopped my dad from contacting me and essentially had to cut all ties with most of my family, I only had social media to keep a tab on the situation. As my sister is an avid poster on Instagram, I saw that she actually ended up getting married to my ex husband. From the looks of it, it seemed like a small ceremony and not many people were there. But I did notice my dad in a few pictures. So even after asking me to get them to break up and after disapproving of their relationship, he still had the nerve to attend their stupid wedding. Well, they did look happy, but I got some satisfaction from the fact that her wedding was way smaller than mine. Anyway, I think this will be the end of this chapter for me, and I do not plan to visit it anymore. My life is different from theirs, and I do not wish anything to hold me back from living it. This is sudden, but since you all have followed this drama with me, I believe that you all need to know about what happened. 8 months have passed since my sister's wedding, and last week she arrived at my doorstep. She brought with her suitcases, and by the looks of it, it seems she left in a hurry and left with as much of her stuff as she could. Although I was very tempted to just slam the door on her face, I was also curious about what could possibly bring her to me. So I asked her to come in a while, and I decided whether I want to talk to her or not. She came in and told me about how she and her husband, which of course is my ex husband, got into a huge fight because he thinks that she's too immature to handle a responsible life after marriage. He wanted to have a serious talk with her about kids, but she quickly shut him down, saying kids can't be in the picture for another 5 to 6 years because she's still very young and still finding her place in the world. She can't give up on her career just because he has reached an age of stability in his life. They both argued about it, and he told her that he was right in thinking that it was a mistake to marry her. He said he knew she's too young and there's a huge gap of maturity between them, but still, he thought she'd overcome that after getting married. He also told her that if she doesn't want to start a life right now, then he can't wait for her as his priorities are different from hers. That's when she packed and left. She came here because she can't go to dad. She said that dad tried to persuade her out of this relationship and now she can't go back crying to him. She wants just a few days to crash somewhere until she finds her own place. Although I was still determined to not let my past hold me down, I can't help but feel sorry for her because one man played both of us. I grudgingly told her that she can stay here for a week at most, only if she decides not to show her face to me and stays out of the way. I somehow lived through the week, and now my sister has left again after finding a rental place. Not gonna lie, I kind of feel satisfied at how the universe took revenge for me. I just wish that man could have suffered as much as me and my sister did. NTA, To have a family that not only backstabs you, but also refuses to support you, man, that must be hard. I can't even begin to imagine how you must be feeling right now or how you're surviving. NTA, good. Let them be. Leave them behind and live your life. You deserve so much more than a shitty man like that and that bratty sister. My wife had her daughter with an ex, but I adopted her when she was 10 and now she's 16. My daughter has been in virtual school for the past 2 years. Her activities closed down, and since then, she's been nervous to go to a new team. She stopped talking to a lot of friends that she had and is getting more introverted. Her and my wife have been arguing a lot about fairly basic things, but my wife continues to escalate. She always grounds her, like she won't be allowed to go to a family gathering coming up, and they're pretty frequent. She won't let her have a sleepover with her cousins, which are the only people she ever really hangs around in the last 2 years with, and the last thing she needs. She hasn't been social and went through a major change from face to face schooling to virtual. She's been vocal that she thinks she's depressed and that she feels anxiety when she goes out in public. She's pleaded with me and my wife to get her help or a therapist. My wife says no, that she isn't going to waste money on a therapist when she can just go to church and pray. She also says that once she goes back to school, her anxiety will be fixed. She said obviously everyone gets nervous, but she just has anxiety because she's a loner now. I just don't think we should rely on something to be fixed out of nowhere, and that's 2.5 months away. She is showing signs of depression. Her room is a mess. She went from being a hygiene freak to barely being able to shower. She used to love getting her nails done. She's a huge girly, but now I haven't seen her do that in months, no matter how many times I offer. She has yet to have anything nice to say about herself. You can see her self esteem going down by the day. She went from waking up at 7 to waking up at 10 to waking up at 12 to waking up at 3 and 4 p.m. But this is regardless of what anyone else thinks. It's the fact that she feels that she is depressed and she feels that she needs help. I tried reasoning with her. I tried telling her I would pay myself if she doesn't want to. I tried asking her to be more sensitive with my daughter instead of arguing. I tried asking her to try and spend more time with her and encourage her out of the house and for girl time like nails or hair, etc., but to no avail. I tried, but I think she needs girl on girl time. I just couldn't sit back and watch anymore. I put her in therapy. When I told her we could, she hugged me and started crying. She's been going for a month, and slowly but surely, she's making some great improvements. She started waking up earlier, going on walks, got a diary. She's doing better with hygiene. I think she's feeling good, and she has more motivation to keep that feeling. My wife found out. She's pissed. I'm currently sleeping on the couch. She says that I ignored her authority as her bio parent and that I completely disrespected her wishes. She hasn't talked to me for 2 weeks. NTA, when you adopted her, you became an equal parent regardless of blood. So for your wife to pull the biology gives me more authority crap makes her an a-hole. Refusing to get her daughter the therapy she needs and asked for makes her an a-hole. Escalating disagreements and then grounding her for all of them makes her an a-hole. That means she is at least a triple a-hole. She is also a bad mother. Dude, NTA, your wife sounds horrible. Good on you for being such a great adoptive father. Your daughter is lucky to have you. You 100% did a great thing. It's important to take claims of depression seriously because we don't want to think of where bad depression leads to. I was on a 3 hour midnight flight, and the couple behind me had 2 children with them. One looked to be 1 to 2 years old, sitting on her mother's lap, and the other child, a boy, was 5 or 6 years old, I'm guessing. Before the flight even began, the boy started kicking my seat repeatedly for absolutely no reason. I turned around and politely told his parents to please tell him to stop. They seemed to do so, but that only made him kick harder in protest. After that, they just gave up. He continued kicking the chair at least once every minute. I was losing my mind. I tried turning back and glaring at his parents, but that didn't work. 30 minutes into the flight, when the kicking wouldn't stop and he didn't seem to tire out, I moved to the empty seat next to mine in front of the mother and the little girl in her lap. The little girl was banging and kicking the chair even harder. At that point, I turned to the parents and asked them to please control their children. The father seemed apologetic, but the mother asked me, I can't control them. They won't sleep. What else do you want me to do? After that, the couple bickered, the husband telling his wife that she had to do something since she was next to the children. It went on for a couple of minutes before they took some sort of action and the kicking stopped. My father, who was with me on the flight, told me later that it wasn't that nice to say something about it and that I really embarrassed the parents for something they couldn't control. He said that children that young are almost impossible to manage. I told him that I'd get it if it were only the toddler, but the 5 to 6 year old seemed to be a bit too old to not be disciplined in some way. And whatever they did after I talked to them a second time seemed to work. So that's proof that it's possible to do something. He just shook his head and said, I'd understand when I have children of my own. Now that I'm out of the situation in the comfort of my own bed, I can't help thinking that maybe I was asking for the impossible and making a big deal out of something that was out of their control. I'm not a parent, so maybe I was quick to be irritated without trying to understand first. It seems so obvious at first, but the more I think about it, the guiltier I feel. AITA? NTA, but it would be better to also complain to the crew. You could have been moved to a seat away from them. Not the a-hole. The fact that they let the kicking continue for almost an hour means they never had any intention of making them stop. I've been in the same situation, and what normally happens is the parent just lets them tire it out. Next time, if something like that happens again, let the attendants know. They're actually trained for that. NTA. Yes, it can be difficult to control a younger one, especially being told not to do something. Crying is usually expected, but infringing on your space is a bit over the top, especially kicking. Most parents bribe their kids when possible. The father might have flown in the past with some kids kicking his seat, so he was more sympathetic, it sounds like.